Welcome to EP Daily. Today on the show, Call of Duty moves to the big screen in the rundown.
Plus, Jose starts a revolution on the Homefront.
And then we unearth Lara Croft's latest adventure with a review of Rise of the Tomb Raider.
It's amazing.
Also coming up, we have more from Lara with a look back at the last Tomb Raider game, go even further back with the very first Tomb Raider game, and much more today on EP Daily. Brought to you by EB Games. I'm your host, Victor Lucas, bringing you the latest in everything cool every single day. Before the rest of the show can begin, we've got an important duty to attend to. It's called the Rundown. One of the biggest game makers in the world is taking on Hollywood. Activision Blizzard has announced that it's launched a new division called Activision Blizzard Studios, devoted to creating original film and television content based on its games. The first project is Skylanders Academy, an animated TV show based on the hit Toys to Life games. That's not the biggest thing they've got in development. Activision says they plan to create a big-screen cinematic universe with multiple interconnected films based on the Call of Duty games. Given that Call of Duty is easily one of the biggest, if not the biggest, entertainment franchises in history, this seems like a no-brainer. Another massive Activision Blizzard franchise, Warcraft, will see its first movie hit theaters next summer. And just like that, a giant nuclear bomb goes off in Hollywood. Here to talk about the Activision movies, the Call of Duty movies, is my bro, the gun show, Scott Jones. What do you think about all this news?
Well, I do feel like there's going to be more of this crossover, that's what I call it, activity going forward. There are going to be more crossover activities like the one that Activision is doing. I am not excited about a series of Call of Duty movies. Yep. I don't care about that. Yep. I've never cared about any of the characters, even when they, photo map Kevin Spacey's face in one of the, I don't care. And I've never remembered any of the people in any of these games.
Yes.
I do remember the shooting. I do remember the explosions. Yeah. I do remember the action, the activities. Yep. I don't know if I need story. So what about you?
Well, of course, I'm skeptical. Of course, I have some concerns about how they're going to put all of this stuff together. But of course, I can see Activision's viewpoint on this. Marvel had to kind of create their own studio future for themselves, and they laid the groundwork. Hasbro is doing that now with the Transformers. All of the game companies, we're seeing this with Ubisoft as well, they've got the next huge IP to translate over to film and to kind of license in a bunch of different media ways like this. The game companies are going to take the reins. They're going to take charge. And it's started with Ubisoft. It's going to definitely lead over to Activision and Blizzard. And I think we'll probably see something similar from EA. They are going to be in charge of the IP that they're creating to bring them out into other types of ways. And what's interesting, I mean, Call of Duty seems very obvious because it's such a massive juggernaut of a franchise and the games are fun and they already look cinematic. You can kind of envision what the movies are going to be like. But I think the bigger story here is Skylanders going from games and toys and succeeding there. Every year those games are very good. Now they're saying these games are so good and there are so many fans and they've already done the heavy lifting on all of this character creation. Let's make some animated stuff around all of this stuff.
I don't know about this stuff. You think it's going to be great?
I think it's going to be huge, yeah.
I'm not going to invest in it. For that reason, I'm out.
I don't know if the movies are going to be great, but I think they're going to be huge. The Transformers movies, generally not that great, but they're huge.
Agreeing to disagree like every other day on the show.
All right, well, let's take a look at another massive cross-media juggernaut. It's Tomb Raider. Let's look back now at the definitive edition. One of my favorite games from 2013 is back again. It's definitive this time, though. It's called Tomb Raider. It's the definitive edition, and it's for the Xbox One and PlayStation 4. I got to say from the outset that I preferred the look of the Xbox One game, but I did like the shiny frame rate on the PlayStation 4. It did move very well on the PS4.
Well, let's just clear something up right here. It's the same game.
It is the same game.
Both the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, and it's the same game. Yeah. You played on the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 and on the PC.
That's right.
Yes, we can quibble all you want about frame rates and hair textures, and
that's nerdy differences about upgrading to the new games.
Make out the faint mustache on Lara Croft. That's how far these new consoles can take Lara Croft. It was a game that came out with a lot of promise, lots of hopes pinned to this game, and then it didn't really take off. And we played it and we consumed it, and I think we had a pretty good time. We were impressed with what Crystal Dynamics had accomplished.
And I loved it. You guys know me. I love this kind of game. I love Uncharted. I love Indiana Jones, and I've always enjoyed the Tomb Raider things. And I think Crystal Dynamics elevated the production and presentation, and they built a beautiful game, and that gave United Front Games, who did the Xbox One port, and Nixies, who did the PlayStation 4 port, a lot of great groundwork and content to build off of. And I think where the value stems for this game is if you bought the new machines, if you bought the PS4 or Xbox One and skipped out on Tomb Raider,
sure, get it.
This is a great experience.
Well, listen, one thing that never sat right with me in the original release and still doesn't sit right with me is there's a lot of violence in the world against women. You know, I hate to be the guy that brings the elephant in the room. And seeing Lara Croft die time and time again in this game. I mean, this is my second time through the game. Watching her get choked out, watching her get crushed, and watching people put their hands around her neck in such fetishized detail, it makes me really uncomfortable, and you should be uncomfortable with these images as well.
You're gonna be okay?
Yes, we just need to rest for a few minutes.
You just feel the video game machinery at work
the
here.
narrative isn't as strong.
No, and I mean, you look at all of the different characters, the supporting characters in the game, and there's the big Samoan guy, and there's the African-American woman, and you just feel like these are all
Sean Connery alike.
Yeah, and there's the scientist who doesn't seem quite right, and it all seems so telegraphed after the nuance and poetry of The Last of Us.
And
the humanity.
Yeah, I know. These are the best versions of the experience. You do get some extras with multiplayer maps, which I know you don't care about. You get some extra outfits for Lara to wear. I have read, though, that Tomb Raider, in its year out on the market, has already reached profitability before these new games come out. And I also feel that these are very strong games for either platform now.
Well, Tomb Raider Definitive Edition is behind us. Victor Lucas, score it up, please.
I still really love this game. I'm giving it a 9.
Still too much in here that I feel personally uncomfortable with. It gets a 7 for me. Oh man, that game was so great. I loved it so much. I finished it twice.
Yeah, well, let's see. The question is, did Crystal Dynamics do as well or better with their follow-up? We'll have that review for you right after this.
Now all I gotta do is find this Yoda, if he even exists.
So we got Star Wars, the movie coming out this year, Episode 7. I've been watching actually all the original episodes with my 4- and 6-year-old, and watching the whole entire thing through their eyes has been incredible. My son said to me the other day, he goes, "Dad, Yoda's got a bad arm that he uses his cane for, and a good arm for his lightsaber." So I can't be more excited about Star Wars, the movie coming out this year. Man, the memories, all the memories pouring over me. Can't wait.
I'm looking for someone.
Looking? Found someone you have, I would say.
Right.
I gotta tell you people something. Adam Boy is one of my favorite people in the entire world. Hi, Adam, it's Scott.
He is a wonderful dude, but now it's the moment we've all been waiting for. Here's our review of Rise of the Tomb Raider. No matter what happens with the Tomb Raider brand, every time a new Lara Croft adventure rolls in, it's something that I personally get excited about. Rise of the Tomb Raider is here. It's exclusive to the Xbox One this year.
It's amazing.
For starters, it's absolutely breathtakingly beautiful.
Did you see the snow? Can you believe the snow? I don't think I've ever seen better snow in a video game.
It's so gorgeous. The cutscenes are phenomenal as well, but the environments are just so rooted in reality. You know, it's just so beautiful. There's just so much detail in every single direction that you go in, and you want to explore. You want to see what the developers have sort of crafted for you. And then you throw in these tuned mechanics that these guys really kind of perfected through the course of the original Tomb Raider, the Crystal D one that they just launched not too long ago, and then the Definitive Edition. All of that has been finessed. You get a lot of the same types of tools and the same types of equipment.
You're right.
You get the rope arrows, and you get the exploding arrows, and all kinds of other weaponry
It does kind of feel like everything has been tightened. Everything is and tuned, and it does feel tighter, more muscular. It feels like there's no nonsense this time around at all. Even the cutscenes feel very efficient. I feel like they keep their eyes on the prize every step of the way through here.
You must know what is at stake with this operation.
Yes, but no. No.
You don't.
No.
How could someone like you? Go easy.
This was one that I couldn't put down when I picked it up. I had to finish it. I couldn't think about any other
You
video
have an
game.
addiction, though.
Yeah, but this, I mean,
You've got a problem.
I do have a problem.
I brought you here to have a talk with you.
Particularly when the design is this, tuned and fun and addictive.
This is also very close to the Nathan Drake Uncharted series, and I know you're hungry for that.
I really am.
Okay.
And I think by Sony giving these guys a bit of a berth here, they've been able to come in and sort of take a little bit of that adventuring out of there. But they've thrown in more tombs to kind of explore and get.
I like that, the optional tombs on the side,
love
and
that
I could
stuff.
never say no to it. And I feel like they're not just cursory experiences, they're really full 3D, fleshed out experiences, and they're really nice digressions in the game, and I can't say no to these things, and I suggest that you take every single one of those.
Well, and I think you will. I mean, particularly because this is really an emphasis on single player and sort of leaderboard sort of competition with your friends and stuff. They didn't really go for a multiplayer kind of deal here at all this time. I think wisely so. I think you kind of split your focus
I
when
don't
you're
want
building.
multiplayer in my Lara Croft game. She's a private woman.
Yeah.
She's independent. She does it on her own. She
Yep.
doesn't want to do it with a group of other people, man.
And that is one of the problems that I have with the game.
What's that?
And one of the reasons why I don't think the modern Tomb Raider games are resonating the same way that the Uncharted games are. The Naughty Dog team has been really, really adept at putting fantastic supporting characters in each one of the Uncharted adventures. And I think they really embellish the experience. And I think Tomb Raider really suffers from a lack of any counterfoil to bounce off of with Lara Croft.
She does have that one friend who's kind of like a
What's
bear.
his name?
He's like a living bear.
Yeah, we forget about him.
His name is Bear.
Yeah, his name is Bear.
He's
And-
big and he's strong.
And there's a bunch of characters like that. Like all the villains and stuff like that just seem to be placeholder sort of
I like
concepts. But nice guy, for sure.
All right, you're right. I agree with you. I
No
think that's
Victor
a valid
Sullivan,
point. But
you know?
listen, I have a little beef too. You're not
Yeah.
the only one with beef
Okay,
today, okay?
okay.
I still have a little bit of a beef, and I agree she's a much more fully realized woman.
Yes.
But I still feel like there are some moments in the game where she's sexualized, and I feel
Yeah.
like we're hypersensitive towards that kind of thing right now. But I often am thinking, why is she wearing that shirt? Why can't she put another sweater on? Why can't
Especially
she cover up a little bit?
in the
Her
cold.
pants are so tight. Why should I be ogling this character who I should be walking in her shoes, not ogling her?
It's not up to us to define how women
I'm
dress.
just
at all.
telling you guys what my experience
That's all.
is.
That's
that
all.
was my experience.
Yeah,
I ogled.
That's all good. You know what? Complaints aside,
For
I
sure.
love this
It's all
damn
great.
game.
All of my
Yes.
complaints are moot because I think you should buy this game. Xbox One owners, you got to be happy right now. What are you giving Rise of the Tomb Raider?
Giving it a 9. How about you?
Bag of nines is open. 9 from me too.
Right on.
If you want more EP, go to our website, epn.tv, for bonus content and full episodes. We're also on Facebook and Twitter.
Let's go. One of the best things about the Wii U, and I keep reminding you guys, is that it can play Wii titles, and I've got a fantastic one here before. I may have mentioned this in a buried treasure. I can't remember, but it's GoldenEye 007. This isn't the N64 GoldenEye. That has yet to kind of come to modern-day consoles, and it's probably got something to do with the rights of Pierce Brosnan and all that stuff. You actually play as Daniel Craig, or the likeness of Daniel Craig, and it's a retelling of the GoldenEye story from the N64 game with more modern mechanics, more modern visuals. Eurocom did a great job, and the pacing and the speed and the changes from level to level and mechanics all worked really well. This is a game that you're going to need Wiimote for, and so you're going to have to put the sensor bar up and all of that and start pointing at the screen and stuff, but they did a really, really solid job. There are some other control variations in there. You can play it with the regular controller if you want as well. I had a blast with this. I know that Scott did too. It was a really cool, nostalgic look back at a classic game, but it also brought enough fresh stuff to make this a worthwhile James Bond experience. In fact, it's one of the best Bond games I've ever played, and it's definitely worth digging up as a buried treasure to play on your Wii U.
I gotta tell you, Vic, you have such great taste, my friend, and
thank
that
you.
is one of my favorite games of all time. I love that game.
The Wii game was really, really cool. Definitely check that out, especially if you've got Bond fever like I do. All right, you may also have Tomb Raider fever. Let's go back in time to our first review of Tomb Raider.
Tomb Raider.
Tomb Raider's great. The graphics are amazing. The texture maps are beautiful.
The best things when you got your guns out and you're jumping to the side and
or you're doing
like
flips
that.
and you're shooting the whole time.
It's awesome. Have you done the thing where you pull yourself up and she does like this gymnastics move and she brings herself
the
up?
handstand thing?
Oh.
Yeah, it's killer.
Awesome.
Or diving off of the cliff.
The swan dive is
yeah, it is a magnificent game to watch. The scenery is just fantastic. The bad guys and the beasts that you come across are really cool. Weapons are cool, but the control is really, it screws it up. Should have been analog control. 9.5.
Okay. I love the animations. I thought it's the best graphics I've ever seen on the PlayStation, and the music was a little sparse but excellent. I would have liked to have killed more things. I think that's where the improvement can be instead of exploring 9.4.
All right.
I was right about that. Eventually, they did put analog controls for Lara Croft, more Mario 64-like, but Tomb Raider, incredible.
Nice to see Retro Victor Lucas. Nice to see you too, Tommy, wherever you are now. Moving right along, Jose Sanchez is here. He caught up with the makers of Homefront, The Revolution.
To our honorable and faithful leaders, I want to say thank you.
Homefront, The Revolution, great name. Tell me about the revolution within this world that is Homefront.
So Homefront, The Revolution is an open-world first-person shooter set in an occupied Philadelphia. You're dropped into the boots of a resistance soldier named Ethan Brady, and your mission is to fight the North Korean occupying force and inspire the people to rise up and join you. We've created an all-new alternate history that leads to an all-new alternate future. There are some key divergence points with our own timeline. What if the U.S. hadn't landed on the moon? Or what if Apple had been founded closer to Kaesong than Cupertino?
We have awoken from our wasteful sleep and taken responsibility for our future.
The idea is that you are a guerrilla fighter using fairly dirty tactics to strike back at people that have occupied your homeland.
One of the cool things I enjoy about the game itself is that they always have that feel that it's not your typical shooter. This isn't something where you just run in, kill everything, guns a-blazing, and then you win, you're the most dominant force ever. You guys really take us through the feeling of maybe I should be a little bit more stealthy and not go gung-ho.
So one of the core pillars of this game is guerrilla warfare, and part of that is actually kind of an inverse power fantasy from most other games. Most other games, you are sort of that unstoppable force that just encounters a group of enemies, plows through them, and keeps pushing forward. It takes a bit of time to adjust your mentality to think like a guerrilla fighter. When you encounter a group of enemies, sometimes the best option is not to engage at all and try and get around them. But you know, if you do have to, then you just want to cause as much damage as you can to open up an escape for yourself, and it requires you to have a very, very keen awareness of what's around you, right? And it's something that you don't get in a linear game where, again, you can only go forward. Now you're thinking, okay, I've got an alley to this direction, I've got an open sewer in this direction, and I've got a fire escape behind me. So if this goes south, and it usually does because the response is overwhelming, you're outnumbered, you're outgunned, I'm gonna pick one of those, and I'm gonna improvise an escape route.
What is it like getting to create a world like this? It's very Philip K. Dick-esque style of world where what happens if, creating that, but make it feel authentic like it might have actually could have happened.
One of the things that I think sets Homefront apart is we'll deal with living under an occupation. We know that when things like Hurricane Sandy hit the East Coast, the gas lines could be a couple of miles long and the water is only on shelves for about 3 hours after the announcement that the storm is incoming. And imagine that over a longer term, you start to see interesting ingenuity come into play of people collecting rainwater from their gutters or like doing some gardening on their tiny little apartment balconies. And it's things like that that you don't see in other games.
Very interesting, but I gotta tell you, they've got a lot to prove this time around. The hype for the last game didn't really pan out, so we'll see.
And we will see. Very interesting to see how that one turns out. But stick around, we've got the Twitter question of the day right after this.
If you want more EP, go to our website, epn.tv, for bonus content and full episodes. We're also on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to EP Daily. It is time now for the best part of every episode. It's the Twitter question of the day.
Yep.
Today's question comes from a very strange person, at GBA95 Sonic 94 taken.
94 taken, yeah.
94 taken. So many bosses in games these days seem to be rinse and repeat or quick time events. How should, I think this is a great question, how should developers change the way they make bosses? Victor Lucas, this is tough. This is tough.
Yeah.
You're my boss, and I wouldn't change one thing about you.
No, I think developers have some challenges there because sometimes the QuickTime event bosses actually serve the narrative in a game or the story of a game better than trying to go super elaborate with that. But I think you got to look at, fantastic boss battles in Mario titles and Shadow of the Colossus.
Mega Man is a game that
yeah.
I go back to all the time. I go back and re-experience those bosses, and I think that's the sign of a great boss fight, is if you're still thinking about that boss even after you've beaten him, and if you have that feeling that you want to go back and fight him again, I think the developers did something right. I love boss battles. Do you like boss battles?
I really do, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's such an exciting climactic moment.
Yes.
And I feel like it's such an integral part of video game culture. I look forward to them.
I don't like cheap ones, but I do like ones that change mechanics on you, like being able to climb all over a boss and take down little pieces of it along the way. I think that's amazing. Good question. If you've got one for us, head to our website, epn.tv.
And that's it for today's episode of EP Daily. But coming soon, we've got a review of the new Xbox One Elite controller. Thanks for watching, everybody.
We'll see you tomorrow.
EP would like to thank its sponsors, Nintendo, Xbox. EP's mobile coverage is brought to you by Gameloft, makers of Asphalt 8 Airborne, which you can play on your Android or iOS device for free right now.